Just over 10 miles southeast of Peoria, Illinois, is the geographic center of the universe. The pumpkin universe, that is. Drive over 100 miles in any direction from here, and you're likely to encounter fields of this popular winter squash. Why? Because in Morton, Illinois, they're serious about pumpkins. So serious, in 1978, Governor Jim Thompson officially declared Morton the pumpkin capital of the world. Between July and November, truckloads of this edible plant rumble into town to be cleaned, sorted, and processed into over 85% of the world's canned pumpkin. And with figures like that, there's reason for excitement. Since 1967, Morton has been celebrating the tasty orange orb with a fall festival every September. But why pumpkins? For that, we have to take a trip back in time. Pumpkins have been growing in North America as far back as 6000 BC, and people have been consuming some varieties ever since. In 1898, a small canning factory in Eureka, Illinois, was purchased by the Dickinson family.
They had a lot of success with canning corn, beans, and tomatoes. In 1902, they added pumpkins into the mix, and they kept expanding their business holdings, and they started a factory in Washington in 1909 and a factory in Morton in 1925. And it was just a few short years after that, in 1929, that the Libby, McNeil and Libby Company out of Chicago purchased all of Dickinson and Company's properties.
When the Depression hit in the 1930s, the effects were felt all over the world, as well as here in central Illinois.
The 1930s were very tough for central Illinois. There was, a lot of hardships. And about 1939, a Eureka Community Association was formed, and one of their major goals was community improvements, how to bring people to Eureka, how can we support our businesses. And the first thing they decided was that they should have a town festival. So they decided in July of 1939, let's have a town festival in October. And so a couple short months later, they had the two-day festival, which they decided to honor the pumpkin, which was one of the primary items that were being canned at the Libby's canning factory here in Eureka.
Except for a hiatus during World War II, the festival continued to grow, adding new events and attractions every year. But in November of 1960, that all changed.
Libby, McNeil and Libby made the decision to close the Eureka factory in favor of consolidating their operations in their more modern facilities in Morton. In 1961, the Eureka Pumpkin Festival continued as scheduled, but when 1963 rolled around, they decided, since they no longer had the factory, that the Pumpkin Festival just wasn't really suited anymore for Eureka. So 1961 was the last year for the Eureka Pumpkin Festival.
In Morton, there had been fall harvest festivals since the 1920s, but from 1963 to 1967, the festivities had been put on the shelf.
We used to have a fall festival that was a stock show, and so people would bring their cows and horses and things into the community, and they would show them off.
In 1967, the Morton Chamber of Commerce decided to plan a new festival, a festival that would celebrate their newest major export. Within a short time, the Pumpkin Festival was born. Originally, the activities were held in downtown Morton. However, after a couple of years, the scope of the events overwhelmed the small area that had been set aside. The organizers decided they needed a new space. They settled on an open field that once used to be on the edge of town.
They thought, well, the downtown, it shouldn't be downtown. And they moved the festival one year out off of David Street behind the post office. And it was kind of in a field. And it rained. And it got wet and muddy.
It was rainy, it was muddy, it was lousy. And we didn't think we would do it again, but we did. We moved downtown, and from there it's grown.
It's just constantly being improved upon, and it becomes more organized. The grounds they're getting used more efficiently, I think, every year, and so every year somebody builds upon the success of the previous year, maybe just fine-tunes it a little bit, and it just seems like it's getting more popular.
Through the years, the festival has grown. Festival organizers have added activities such as a soapbox derby down Plum Street, a big wheels race around a special course on nearby Washington Street, the Pumpkin Idol Singing Contest, and a Pumpkin Princess Pageant. Then there's the Miss Morton Pageant, a tennis tournament, art and photography shows, bingo, a 10K race, a pie eating contest, and a huge parade.
1, 2, 3, yay!
As you walk the festival grounds, the air is buzzing with activity, and the smell of food delights your senses. Over the years, as the Pumpkin Festival has grown, so has the menu.
I remember when Larry Welch was he was a hardware store guy. And Larry decided that we should serve pork chops. And we called him Mr. Pork Chop. I can still see Larry with his apron on and cooking pork chops and selling pork chops at the Pumpkin Festival. Well, now, the number of pork chops we sell, I don't know the number, but it's phenomenal.
We go through 10,500 pork chop sandwiches during the Pumpkin Festival. We sell 50,000 pumpkin donuts every year, 50,000, and we still run out. We get fresh deliveries of those donuts every day. We have pumpkin ice cream. And who could have a pumpkin festival without pumpkin pie? We order and sell over 1,500 pumpkin pies every year at the festival by the slice, or people can purchase a whole pie to take with them home. Every year we also, for the theme, we try to do a special food item. A few years ago, when our theme was Pumpkins of the West, we added pumpkin cornbread to our menu, and that was such a popular combination with the pumpkin chili that so many people asked us to keep that on the menu that we still maintain that as a menu item today.
In 1983, Bill Wilson started a new food tradition.
And Bill was one of the management people at the cat parts plant. But he loved the Pumpkin Festival, and it just, you know, you could call him Mr. Pumpkin almost. But he was the guy, actually, that started the notion of that we needed to have breakfast. And so he had a recipe for pumpkin pancakes, and he was going to have pumpkin pancakes with maple syrup and walnuts on it. And I remember at the chamber, he presented that to the board, and we all laughed about it.
The pumpkin pancake breakfast is on Saturday morning. It is a huge tradition at the festival to come get pumpkin pancakes and sausage. And I think it's also historically known to be the longest line that has ever existed in central Illinois, probably, maybe beyond. People come out and meet at the breakfast every year, enjoy the pumpkin pancakes, enjoy the entertainment, and it's wonderful. But the line is historically long.
This year we ordered 1,400 pounds of sausage for the pancake breakfast. It is all you can eat, so that's very popular, and 750 pounds of pancake batter.
I think my first experience with the Morton Pumpkin Festival was a volunteer in the pancake breakfast. Our family had a clothing store on Main Street, and so we were part of the Morton Downtown Business Association, which I believe was responsible for the pancake breakfast for a period of time. So as a member of that organization, I also volunteered for the pancake breakfast.
I remember being overwhelmed with the complexity of the whole thing. I didn't have my pancake griddle set up properly, so we were at times burning the tar out of pancakes and also underdoing them, and our coffee was, we had totally insufficient capacity to make coffee, and so we had people They were kind of upset about how long it was taking, and the pancakes weren't that great, and the coffee was cold, and I just remember being, you know, just what did I get myself into?
Bill was also, every year the next Pumpkin Festival would come around, Bill would always come forward and say, I think we need to have pumpkin donuts. I got this recipe for pumpkin chili. And he would just, was always bubbling out with some new idea. I really don't know who came up with the idea of pumpkin custard, but frankly, I really believe it might have been Bill Wilson. I know he was the guy hauling the machines in and out.
Making pumpkin ice cream is probably the most fun thing there is to do in the sweet shop. The cones are fun, but actually making the mix is a lot more fun. It's kind of messy, but what we do is we'll take the milk, we mix it with the pumpkin and the cinnamon. You have to whip it really fast. You have to scrape the bowl, and that bowl gets full. So there's always room for error. A couple times this year we had some volunteers switch the mixer on high when it was full, and so mix just got everywhere. But it's a fun time for everybody. You know, everybody laughs when we make a mess. We laugh when we spill the ice cream. Not that it happens a lot, but it happens.
Everywhere you look, there's something to eat. If you leave hungry, you're doing something wrong. The sound of excitement and happiness fills the air. As you near the midway, excitement becomes palpable. Carnival rides and games of all shapes and sizes spread out to the horizon.
In 1957, when we had our fall festival, Jake Merriman brought his carnival to our community for the very first time. And Jake did a wonderful job and had his sons helping him to do this. And so even today, it's called Big M Amusements, and it is the same family, and they are now on the 4th generation running this carnival, coming to our community.
My great-grandfather had a little show out of up in the Quad City area, and my dad became partners with him and then bought him out, and then it grew from there.
You know, in the early days, what I remember most were the carnival rides. I mean, that was so much fun. When you're a little kid, carnival rides are pretty hard to beat.
I was born and raised in Morton. I've lived literally within a short distance of the Pumpkin Festival, and love to hear the sounds of the screaming and the music of, you know, people having fun during the festival.
We were tremendously excited, yeah. It seemed like the whole town. And of course in grade school, you know, everybody's keyed up. I went to Jefferson Grade School, which is where the festival was put up. So it was a lot of hindrance to the education. We were very preoccupied with what was going on.
Adding to the festival atmosphere are the activities on the main stage. Throughout the festival, various entertainment delights the senses. Every year, there's a special attraction. This year was no different. On Thursday night, 3 big, shiny red semi-tractor trailers lined up on Jefferson Street. In collaboration with a local beer distributor, the festival was able to secure one of the regional groups of traveling Budweiser Clydesdales.
The Clydesdales actually were here on Thursday night after the Kitty Parade. So the Kitty Parade went down Main Street first, and then the Clydesdales came down the other direction, and they actually stopped at a few places and did some beer deliveries to some of the local establishments. So it was pretty awesome to see how many people came out with Clydesdales, and they spent a lot of time here in Morton, which we certainly appreciate.
When pumpkins are serious business in your town, you can't have a pumpkin-themed festival and not go large, really large. In 1971, the festival commissioned the first Pumpkin Way Off.
For the last 6 years, I've been involved in the Pumpkin Weigh-Off, which has a number of categories. One is the largest pumpkin, which draws the most interest, and has several categories for the children, Morton School District kids to be able to grow various sized pumpkins. This year's Pumpkin Weigh-Off, we had 40 contestants, I believe, or 38 contestants, which is very nice to see that turnout from school-age children to the giant. Did have a 965-pound pumpkin grown by a gentleman in Princeville. Neat to see the back of a pickup filled with one pumpkin when they come in like that. It is pretty serious business for some of the pumpkin weigh-off growers, and they do spend a lot of time and effort getting a plant started and nursing it along. They talk about picking off pumpkins that they don't want to grow, selecting the one they do want to nurture, special recipes of milk and honey even to nurse it along and grow it. And I don't believe any of our contestants, some people put up a shade tent and protect it from the sun. And they say that you can see it grow in size. You know, when they get above 500 pounds, you can go out on a daily basis and know, oh yes, it gained another 30, 40 pounds a day, yeah.
I call that a huge pumpkin.
The first year of the Pumpkin Weigh-Off for me was confusing. I didn't realize that the growers were as serious as they were and hadn't read up on the rules enough. A pumpkin needs to be 75% orange, no rot, and making those determinations the first year was a challenge for me. I'm glad the participants allowed me to continue.
If you'd rather leave the growing to the professionals and prefer an artistic competition, you can always decorate a pumpkin and enter it into the Pumpkin Decorating Contest. On Saturday morning, it's parade time. It's estimated that 15,000 to 20,000 people once again lined the streets for the 1.6-mile 50th anniversary parade. This year had 120 entries.
We started planning for this year's parade almost immediately after last year's festival, and some of the special 50th anniversary things we did for this year's parade was we brought back 50 years of Miss Morton's and parade marshals. So we were very happy and honored to have those individuals in the parade with us this year.
To put on a festival of this magnitude would not be possible without an army of volunteers.
It takes over 2,000 volunteers to host the Morton Pumpkin Festival, and they do everything from running the different activities and events to doing all the food operations, which in a festival that large is an enormous task. It truly is something where the people of Morton, they come out to play, but they come out and work at the festival, and it really takes everybody to make it happen.
With the volunteers, you have that sense of pride that with this happens in your community, it makes it all worthwhile. The other thing that happens in our community is you not only have the activities that are already in place that you're looking for volunteers for, you have somebody who steps up and says, hey, I think we should have a pancake breakfast, and I will chair that, and I will get people to work it, and I'll figure out how to get this equipment, and they make that happen. So it's not just that you have things in place that you need people to work for. It's that you have people who step up with new ideas that keeps the festival fresh.
The fact that our community loves this event so much and that they just have such a passion for it is what makes it possible.
It's the enthusiasm for it, the volunteers mainly, because the people that are putting it on are enthusiastic and excited about it. It's not a ho-hum drum, oh, we got to do the festival again. It's oh my God, it's festival time. You know, I can't wait to get up there to cook pork chops, or I can't get up there, wait to get up there to work in the serving line. But it's the people's enthusiasm, and it spreads.
It's something that's really fun to do, and I just encourage people in the future just to step up, and you don't have to be involved in the chamber in any way, but just step up and say, hey, I'm willing to volunteer for Pumpkin Festival, and we will accept you without a doubt.
It's well known that everyone comes back to Morton for Pumpkin Festival Week.
The festival has become one big happy reunion, really. There are people that come literally from all over the country to be back for the festival. It's kind of one of those things that if they're going to come and visit to their hometown or be with family, they might as well come during the festival because it's a whole lot of fun. So we just get people from all over. And it truly is one of those things where you just see people that you know, and it's just like a big reunion.
Pumpkin Festival weekend is homecoming for anyone that grew up in Morton. That's why all the class reunions happen that weekend, because everyone is there. So, you know, that's definitely the theme of the festival every year is homecoming.
My family comes from Iowa and Michigan, specifically to come to the Pumpkin Festival. So it's become a family tradition for me, and I'm sure it's a family tradition for many folks. My sons have moved away from the area, but they come back for the Pumpkin Festival, and I know that's the same for a lot of Morton families.
It's such a special thing to be a part of planning something like that and seeing all of the moments that happen and the memories that are made during an event like that. And so, you know, it makes all of the work that you put in just extremely satisfying.
Whether it's the countless volunteers who show up year after year, or the new volunteers who are excited to get involved, a sense of community is the real reason for the festival.
The biggest thing is seeing people that everybody lives in Morton, everybody sees one another driving down the street, those kind of things, but you have the opportunity to actually talk to people that you don't see other than maybe at the Pumpkin Festival.
The mention of Pumpkin Festival to me is a sense of joy in my community. It's a sense of pride. I'm the Director of Tourism for the Village of Morton now, and I travel to conferences and things, and it's amazing. People have heard of our festival. This is a town of 17,000 people, and people all around the state know about our festival. And a lot of people from out of state have been to our festival. So it is it's a great sense of pride for our community.
You know, maybe pumpkins aren't the single most important things in our lives, but what is really important is community. And when the community gets together and we have a theme that we can work around, it's fun, but it's also a chance for us all to get together and work together and just enjoy a good time. And there's something to be said about the harvest of something you've worked with all year and all the farmers in the area and so many people involved, and it's finally that time of year where you get to appreciate the fruits of your labor.
When I'm out in the community and folks, and I hear Pumpkin Festival, I think I just get a real sense of a neighborly community event, something that maybe a lot of places really don't have anymore. The opportunity to really come together as a community for a common goal of providing entertainment, great food, just a really nice time to step back and enjoy each other's company.
I think the Morton Pumpkin Festival, yeah, it's a nice festival for everybody else, but for Morton and people who've been close to Morton, it's homecoming. It's the time we bring our kids back, our grandkids come back now. We invite our friends because it is just a wholesome, family, wonderful event.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fellowship with people from church, and wonderful to see the people of the community and get everything started. It's a great time.
We're giraffes.
Yeah.
Giraffes, huh?
Yeah.
Why are you guys dressed as giraffes?
Because it was my birthday Monday, and I got this, and she got one to match it.
I think the feeling of community is important. The bringing of people together is family friendly, and I think families need to do more together. And even though I'm here alone, I feel community and I feel welcomed, and I just think it's very wholesome and clean.
Everyone's really friendly and helpful, and everybody, it's just like a home, you know, a real hometown feel, even though we're not from Morton.
When I was little, coming here was it was larger than life.
Well, you know what, just last weekend we were
at a couple festivals, and this is just bigger and better than any place else.
Wherever I've gone over the years, if it's at a conference or a meeting, and you have to go around the room and introduce yourself and tell where you're from. I've found that there's nothing that opens up a group more than to say, my name is Scott Witzig. I live in Morton, Illinois, the pumpkin capital of the world.